attacking independent media organizations.
Hi, I'm Nat, and today I want to talk about how Elon Musk just angered a bunch of state-affiliated or publicly funded media organizations that for some reason now don't want to be called that. You see, Twitter before had this little tag that it would put on certain state-affiliated or publicly funded media organizations like Russia Today or essentially any news organization coming out of China, also Al Jazeera, and they never really had an issue with it. But now that he's also started labeling the Western media organizations that are publicly or state-affiliated or funded, well, they all got very big mad at him. And here in Canada, the CBC also decided to throw a hissy fit over their government-funded media tag. I mean, they are government-funded, and most people know that. They also weren't able to fully defend the fact that they're truly independent because they had to state to Elon that they're only less than 70% government-funded. So Elon went in and changed it to 69% government-funded media. And they're still not happy, so now they've decided to completely stop using Twitter. Hissy fit. And one of the people that predictably came out to defend the CBC was Justin Trudeau, because they're his propaganda arm. This is what he said about it a few days ago.
I think it says a lot about the Conservative Party of Canada, that they're choosing to constantly attack independent media organizations, journalists who are working hard to keep Canadians informed and support our democracies. CBC Radio-Canada serves right across the country, delivers local news and local content in many regions of the country, that, yes, has been challenged over the past years, but the idea of adding to that challenges and laying on by attacking this Canadian institution, attacking the culture and local content that is so important to so many Canadians, really indicates the values and the approach that Mr. Poilievre is putting forward.
And as he increasingly does nowadays, he's deciding to blame this on attacks by his political opponents. Pierre Poilievre, think of him what you will, wants to defund the CBC because of their biased coverage and clear leaning towards the current government. I mean, it's not like Justin Trudeau, right before these past elections, decided to funnel $61 million to 1,500 news organizations that were favorable to him, while at the same time banning true independent media from entering the debates, like Rebel News, True North, and The Post-Millennial. And it's not only Justin Trudeau who is fully defending the CBC as being completely unbiased and independent, even though they wouldn't really mind that label if they truly were that. Rachel Gilmore, an award-winning journalist, had this to say about it.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre just called CBC News, which is one of the biggest news outlets in Canada, propaganda, which is an outright lie. And he said it after Elon Musk labeled CBC News government-funded media, despite the fact that it's a crown corporation, arm's length from government, and completely editorially independent.
Now, I want to hand it over to Viva Fry, who is a Canadian lawyer who luckily escaped Canada and now lives in Florida. He has a show with another very well-respected lawyer and a powerhouse, Robert Barnes. He will now explain to this young journalist why she is completely and utterly incorrect. So let's watch that.
I'd like to assess that. I think if she asked questions, Pierre would answer. Crown Corporation, arm's length with total editorial independence. Did anybody bother looking up what a Crown Corporation is?
It's not like she's a journalist.
It's basic. A Crown Corporation. What does a Crown Corporation mean? Crown corporations in Canada are government organizations with a mixture of commercial and public policy objectives. They are directly and wholly owned by the Crown, the government of Canada, or a province. I mean, it's just so embarrassingly juvenile and so remorselessly ignorant. I should say, let me say, shamelessly ignorant. Crown corporations, just Wikipedia. I mean, it's not the best, but a Crown corporation is a corporation created by the Crown under Canadian law. Not everybody gets to be a Crown corporation, and the Crown corporations are things like CN Rail, things that have national importance, or, as Wikipedia rightly points out, a mixture of commercial and public policy objectives. There is a public policy objective to the CBC. They are governed by the Broadcasting Act. It has requirements for the CBC's content. CanCon, a very funny name, Canadian content. Their very content is regulated by law. Crown corporations represent a special form of state-owned enterprise. Each corporation is ultimately accountable to federal or provincial parliament through a relevant minister for the conduct of its affairs. I mean, for God's sake, Rachel, arm's length, they're not, by definition, they're not arm's length. Editorial independence, by definition, there is, I won't say that the government tells the CBC what to publish, but it has regulations that govern its content, literally.
So there it is from a Canadian lawyer himself. Thank you, Viva Fry. I mean, when I arrived in Canada 10 years ago, I'm from Mexico, by the way, everybody knew the CBC was affiliated to the government and funded by the government, and it was never, like, an issue, at least not that I knew about. And same as with the BBC and NPR and PBS, like, all of these news outlets were always almost kind of proudly funded by the government and the taxpayer money, and that people thought would keep them kind of independent. But why do they care so much nowadays? Well, because lately there's been a very notorious bias towards current governments or past governments if they don't like the current government. So, I mean, maybe that's why they're so worried, because people now realize and they, for some reason, don't want it on Twitter. And it's such a big deal that a lot of them have now decided to stop publishing their news on Twitter. I mean, it's just a label. And you do take either taxpayer or government money. I mean, come on. Even the CBC, on their 2019-2020 annual report, revenue and other sources of funds, 70.6% of the revenue comes from government funding. I mean, they weren't really afraid of saying it, stating it on their own website, right? Like, come on, why is it such a big deal now? And it's because they know that the public is aware of the bias and of the types of news they print now, and the activists that lie within their journalists, and how Trudeau wants to really defend it now with his Bill C-18. So stop pulling the wool over people's eyes and start reporting the news if you don't want to be embarrassed about being labeled correctly what you are. Is it that so hard? No. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.